temperature, etc. And then these conditions and the processes. Now the definition of state or process is similar to what is defined in thermodynamics. That is, the state means two intensive properties are defined, then the state is defined, and you can find all other properties. And then when there is a change in the state of the substance, you call it a process. So psychrometrics would use thermodynamic properties of air to analyze conditions and processes involving moist air. The air around us is moist air only. What it means is that it contains water vapor. And in psychrometrics, we take air or dry air as one component and water vapor as another component. We know that air is made up of various gases like oxygen, nitrogen, argon, carbon dioxide, etc. Right? But we will not go into the components of dry air. We will call it dry air just as one part, and another part is water vapor. So moist air is considered to be a binary mixture of dry air and water vapor. So moist air is nothing but dry air plus water vapor, as it is shown schematically in this figure. When you say moist air, it has two components. One, the mixture of permanent gases, and water vapor. So we'll not talk about the parts of this. When you say moist air, what we mean is one part of it is it's a binary mixture, means only two components. One part is the dry air and another part is water vapor. Now, what are the different properties that we will need to talk about, define them so that we can make use of that? One of them is dry bulb temperature. Now, this is actually the same temperature that we talk about in day-to-day life. It's a temperature shown by the, let's say, mercury thermometer. When its bulb in which the mercury is filled is dry, right? It is not wet. It is not coming in contact with water. We are using this adjective dry bulb because there is another temperature called wet bulb temperature. And to distinguish this temperature from wet bulb temperature, we use the word dry bulb temperature, which is the normal temperature that we talk about. So dry bulb temperature, the nomenclature that we may use is just T. It can just be T, or if you want to distinguish it from wet bulb, you may write T suffix dB, right? And the unit of this can be degrees Celsius or Kelvin. In SI units, we normally will use either degrees Celsius or Kelvin. So the dry bulb temperature is the temperature of air measured by thermometer freely exposed to air. It indicates the amount of heat in the air. Okay. Now humidity ratio is another parameter which is also very important. And now I may show you the psychrometric chart simultaneously. You already have the copy, you have been provided a soft copy of this chart, and I believe you have also taken printout of that so that you can physically work upon that, right? You can actually show the point or state on it, and you can later on you can also show processes on that chart. The way some lines are drawn, I'll be explaining you about these things later. Okay. So what you see on the horizontal axis of this chart is dry bulb temperature. So we'll be defining all properties which are seen on this chart. Right? There could be some additional properties also, but as we will not be working or using those properties, I may not define them, or means we may not even use them when we do the exercises related to psychrometric processes. So as you can see on the horizontal axis, the dry bulb temperature is shown. That's the regular temperature that we talk about. And the chart that we are using here is ASHRAE psychrometric chart as provided by ASHRAE, and this is for the barometric pressure 101.325 kilopascal, right? So it's for the pressure at near sea level. So if your pressure is very much different from this, you cannot use this chart. But for common applications, like the pressure, the absolute pressure or total pressure at ambient pressure is near this number 101 kilopascal. So you can comfortably use this chart unless you are talking about some special application. Okay, so this is the psychrometric chart, and the horizontal axis, the range of the temperature is 0 to 50, right? So normally in air conditioning, we come across this temperature range, except a few cases where the temperature may be even lower than this or can be higher than this, right? So in that case, you may have to go for another type of chart, another psychrometric chart. Then on the vertical axis, what you read here is humidity ratio. Humidity ratio, right? The thing that we are going to define now. And it's written, it's capital W, the symbol or nomenclature used. And though it's a very fine print, what is written is gram G, gram water, W is suffix, per kg dA. dA is again suffix. So it's grams of water per kilogram of dry air. And what you see here, the range is from 0 and it goes up to 0 is not written, but it's 0 here at the base, and it goes up to 30, 30. And you can see it's written 2 here, and in between there are 3 more lines. So it's 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, and so on. So minimum resolution for W is 0.5 on this chart, and that's the humidity ratio. Now, what is the definition of the humidity ratio? It's given here. Humidity ratio of a given moist air sample is defined as the ratio of the mass of water vapor to the mass of dry air in the sample. So mathematically, you can write it as W is equal to M, that is mass. I normally write mass as small m, and capital M is used for molecular mass, right? So I normally use small m for mass. So mass of water upon mass of dry air. So if you are taking a sample of moist air and you want to know what is the humidity ratio of that sample of moist air, what you need to do is find the amount of water in mass of water in that sample. If you are able to separate out, let's say, water and dry air. So MW, the mass of water in that sample, divided by the mass of dry air. So in the denominator, you are not taking the total mass of moist air. You are taking only the mass of moist air sample. Let's say out of 100 gram, 5 gram is water vapor. That is actually too high. But let's say 1 gram is water vapor and 99 grams is dry air. Total is 100. So what you are going to write is 1 upon 99 and not 1 upon 100. So that's the humidity ratio number. So it can be written as of water per kilogram of dry air or kilogram of water per kilogram of dry air. Now normally water quantity will be much smaller than the dry air quantity. So the grams of water, it may be maybe easier to read and understand if it is written in grams per kilogram of dry air, the way it is given on the psychrometric chart. It's 0 to 30 grams of water per kilogram of dry air. So this is the definition of humidity ratio, and it is one of the very important properties or moist air as you deal with it in the field of air conditioning. Though common people normally don't know much about humidity ratio, like RH, relative humidity is a more common thing, but actually relative humidity is something which can be misguiding in many cases. If you don't understand the proper definition of relative humidity, it may be misguiding. So it's better to explain in terms of humidity ratio, the moisture content, rather than in terms of relative humidity. Okay. So what is relative humidity and where is relative humidity on the psychrometric chart? So on the psychrometric chart, you can read here this curved line 10% relative humidity, right? 10% relative humidity. So that this is that line for the lowermost line is for 10% relative humidity. Okay. And then you have the lines parallel to or lines above that. This is 20%, this is 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and this last line is for 100% RH. Okay, the last curved line that you see here is for 100% RH. 100% RH, relative humidity, means saturation, state of saturation. So it's also called saturation line. So for all the states on this line, the air is saturated with water vapor. Right? If the air is at this state, you cannot add any moisture in form of vapor. Right? It will immediately condense out in the form of liquid if it is saturated. So you might have already understood that relative humidity is talking about relative humidity is talking about it's a relative term, right? And it is comparing the given moisture content with the moisture content at saturation state at the same temperature, right? So relative humidity, it is the ratio of mole fraction. You know what is how much is mole of water vapor. So it's the nomenclature or symbol would be XW in a given moist air sample to the mole fraction XWS in an air sample saturated at the same temperature and pressure. So it's talking about temperature as well as pressure, but normally, like if you are taking pressure as the like sea level pressure 101.325, then you will be talking about temperature only. So at a given temperature, whatever is the mole fraction of the water vapor divided by the mole fraction that would be if it is in saturated state. So if I'm talking about, let's say 25 degrees Celsius temperature, what is the mole fraction at in the given sample? That mole fraction XW divided by what would be the mole fraction? Obviously it will be higher than XW. What will be the mole fraction if it is saturated at 25 degree Celsius? Right, so it will always be a fraction. So as it is shown here, phi is XW upon XWS at given temperature and pressure. At given temperature and pressure. Right. Now the ability of the air to hold moisture at higher temperature is higher. This is something similar to if you have water and you add salt into it, right? The what the this will have the water will have capability to hold certain grams of salt in it. If you go on adding, there will be a point where it cannot hold any more moisture, so any more salt, right? So that will be the saturation state for it. But if you heat water, then its ability to contain salt will increase. So you can add more salt into it, right? So similar thing for air. If the temperature is low, the ability to contain moisture is high. If the temperature is low, the ability to hold moisture is low. And if the temperature is high, the ability to hold moisture is high, right? So your denominator is changing when you change the temperature, right? And what is the actual XW, mole fraction, right? That you put in the numerator. Now practically, so XW is nothing but number of moles of water vapor divided by the total number of moles, dry air as well as water vapor. Okay, that's what is XW. But then for ideal gases, you in place of mole fraction, you can write water vapor pressure. You can write water vapor pressure. For ideal gas, you can show this that XW upon XWS is equal to PW upon PWS. So it's the partial pressure of water vapor, actual partial pressure of water vapor. So out of the total partial pressure, let's say it is 100 kilopascal, right? Now out of that, let's say 5 kilopascal is exerted by water vapor. So PW is 5 kilopascal and PWS. So if it were saturated, what would be the partial pressure? So let's say if it were saturated at that temperature, the partial pressure would be 10 kilopascal. So 5 kilopascal upon 10 kilopascal. So 50% is RH, right? 50% is relative humidity. So so in that case, it would be 50%, right? So this is the definition of relative humidity. And how do you get the partial pressure? Let's say PWS, partial pressure at a given temperature. You can get it from the steam table. If you look at the temperature, let's say 30 degrees Celsius, at saturation, it can contain at saturation, the partial pressure of water vapor would be the saturation pressure at the given temperature in the given steam table. So that's how you can get the partial pressure of water vapor at saturation condition at a given temperature. So this is about the relative humidity, and I already showed you how that line looks on the psychrometric chart. So this is 10% RH, 20%, 30%, and so on. And this line, last line, is the saturation line, 100% RH line. And this, the psychrometric chart ends here. There is nothing outside that, right? Okay. So now let us take another term, next term, which is also an important term. And while talking about the practical on air conditioning, I introduced you this parameter. So you already know the name of this parameter and you have some idea about what it means. Though I have not given you the scientific definition, which is now given. So these are all definitions available in ASHRAE Fundamentals Handbook. Okay. So dew point temperature TD, normally you will use the suffix T, suffix D. The term or the nomenclature that you will use, symbol TD, is the temperature of moist air saturated at pressure P with the same humidity ratio as that of given sample of moist air. It is defined as the solution TD as a function of pressure and specific humidity ratio of the following equation. W with the help of the psychrometric chart. Okay. So if I am talking about a particular condition, So let's talk about a particular state. Let's say I'm talking about this point here, right? Let's say I'm talking about this point here. I'm trying to show that point a bit bigger in size. Let me try that. Yeah, so let's say I'm talking about this point. Now, talking about this point, right? You can see a point. Okay. Now, let's say you have been provided two things. One, temperature, dry bulb temperature. Let's say that is 30 degrees Celsius temperature. So I'm talking about this temperature. I'm shifting this line here, or vertical line here. So I'm talking about 30 degrees Celsius temperature. And let's say RH is 60%. So I hope you can read RH 60% here, right? RH 60% here. Okay. So if the condition given is 30 degrees Celsius temperature and 60% RH, I can locate a point here on the chart, on the psychrometric chart. That is, let's say, point 1, right? So let me show it as point 1. I'm shifting this point here. So that is point 1, right? Now, once a state is defined, I can find out all other properties. Now, so I can also find out W for this point, right? I can also find out W for point 1. So let me try and do that. I'm shifting this red line. So what I see is W is 15. You can read it on the chart. No, it is 16, right? This is 16. So W is 16 grams of water per kilogram of dry air for this condition, humidity ratio. Now, when you want to find out dew point temperature, you don't change W, but you go on decreasing the temperature. You go on decreasing the temperature. You go on the left hand side. Now you will reach the saturation line. So you are intersecting the saturation line, 100% RH line here. From that, I'm dropping a line and reading it on this scale. So what I read is, this is 20, this is 30, here it is 25. Each line is 1. So 21 and 22. So this seems to be almost between 21 and 22, right? Maybe slightly towards 21. So probably 21.4 degree Celsius. So that temperature is the dew point temperature, right? So that is also a property. For point 1, what is the dew point temperature? For point 1, the dew point temperature is 21.4 degree Celsius. How do you get that temperature? What you do is, from point 1, you move on a horizontal line on the left hand side and go up to 100% RH. So without changing the humidity content of the air sample, if you go on decreasing the temperature, you will come to saturation state, right? WS. It is WS. This W16 is WS for 21.4 degrees Celsius at a given temperature and pressure, right? Okay. So this is about the dew point temperature, and as it is already explained, like I told you at the time of practical, that if you expose the air to a temperature lower than the dew point temperature, only in that case you will be able to find, or rather you will be able to remove moisture from air. So unless, this is a mechanical procedure, not the chemical procedure, if you want to remove moisture from air sample, you have to expose it to a temperature lower than the dew point temperature of the air. So let's say the condition of the atmosphere is this. 30 degrees Celsius and 60% RH. And I am taking out a cold drink bottle from a refrigerator, and let's say that bottle surface is at 15 degrees Celsius temperature. So whether you will expect to see dew or water on the surface of that bottle or not. Obviously, this temperature is less than this 21.4. I'm talking about 15 degrees Celsius temperature. So that cold drink bottle, you will see water droplets on its surface. That is nothing but the air, atmospheric air, is exposed to a temperature less than 21.4 degrees Celsius. And because of that, the water vapor in the atmospheric air has condensed over the surface of that bottle, and the water vapor is removed, water is removed, or dehumidification is done for the air surrounding that bottle, right? So that this is the importance of dew point temperature. So I gave the definition of the dew point temperature and also explained the concept to you. Now there are other properties also which you will come across in the chart. The problems related to air conditioning processes or psychrometric processes can be solved with the help of the chart, or they can be solved with the help of formula also. You can solve it with the help of the chart, but as you might have already realized that the results that you get from chart can be approximate only, that it cannot give you accurate calculations. So you can use formula for that, and one can make a program with those formula also. And once you put the two parameters, you should be, with the help of the formula, one should be able to find all other parameters, right? So you can have a program which is giving you the results also. But in your course, obviously, you should not be using any such ready-made software to get the properties. You should understand the formula first, and then later on, once you know what is there in that program, how it calculates and gives you the answer, you can use that for quick calculation, right? So formula will give you more accurate answer, and you will be using the formula for calculations when you solve the problems here, as well as in the practical when you find a certain parameter. Let's say you want to find out the total cooling rate, right? So in that case, you will do the calculations with the help of formula. There are other properties also to be understood in psychrometrics, as well as they will also be useful. They are also seen on the psychrometric chart. They are also shown on the psychrometric chart. One of them is specific volume. Now, specific volume is not something new, and it is inverse of density. But the specific volume in psychrometrics is defined in a bit different way. Specific volume V, small v, is equal to total volume, capital V, divided by mass of dry air. So if you are taking a moist air sample, it has some water vapor and some air. Let's say out of 100 grams, there is 1 gram of water vapor and 99 grams of dry air. When you have the volume, you will divide it with only 99. Right, mass of dry air only. You will exclude the mass of water vapor. So this is a bit different thing from the conventional definition of specific volume. Okay, so that you have to take into account, and so the specific volume will not just depend upon temperature and pressure here. It will also depend upon humidity ratio W, because you are excluding that mass. Right. So there is a formula which you will be using to find the specific volume, right? It will be provided to you, or it will be introduced to you somewhere during this lecture. Okay, so this is the definition of specific volume, and where is that specific volume on the psychrometric chart? Where are those lines? Constant specific volume lines. You can read this thing here. 0.92 volume cubic meter per kilogram dry air, right? So this is 0.92 specific volume and it is meter cube per kg of dry air. It is per kg of dry air, right? So you should write kg suffix da, 0.92 meter cube per kg dA. That's how you should write the unit for specific volume. So this is 0.92. This is not written on this line, but it is 0.91. Then 0.90 is available, 0.89, 0.88, and so on. Right? So if I'm talking about 0.1, what is the specific volume at that point? You can see that this 0.88 line is passing through that. 0.88 line is passing through that, right? So while I'm speaking, you can put this 0.1 on the psychrometric chart copy available with you. You can show that point. You should put a dot and make a small circle around it so that it is clearly visible. Okay. And if you have multicolor pen, you can use different colors for showing different types of lines. And preferably don't use red color. Use colors other than that. And so once you have this point, you can get all other properties. So specific volume seems to be around 0.88 88 meter cube per kg of dry air, right? So that's about the specific volume. Now the next term, which is a very important term, perhaps the most important term in psychrometrics or in study of air conditioning, is enthalpy. Even in refrigeration, you used to use enthalpy for finding the change that you talk about, right? Because enthalpy takes care of the latent heat part as well as sensible heat part. Okay. So that's why that is the reason whenever there is a phase change, you should talk in terms of enthalpy rather than talking in terms of temperature change, because temperature change reflects only the heat content related to temperature. But if there is a phase change, there could be heat content related to phase change also, right? Vaporization or condensation. So enthalpy is defined as the total heat content per kilogram of dry air. Again, the basis is kilogram of dry air. Though you are dealing with moist air, in the denominator you'll put only the dry air portion. It has two components. One, A, contribution from dry air, and B, contribution from water vapor present in the air. So when you want to find out the enthalpy of air, moist air, it is made up of two parts. One, the enthalpy contained of the dry air portion, and the water vapor will also have certain enthalpy. Now, what is the unit of this enthalpy? It is kilojoule per kilogram of dry air. That's the unit of this H. For HDA, it is nothing but Cp of air into temperature of air. And normally the basis will be 0 degrees Celsius temperature. So it is, if you are saying 30 degrees Celsius, then what is the average Cp of air? So Cp into 30, right? So that will be this part, the dry air content, the contribution from the dry air. Now, because the unit is per kg of dry air, the enthalpy of water, the unit would be kilogram of water per kilogram of enthalpy of water would be kilojoule per kilogram of water, right? So you have to multiply it with the W, which is kilogram of water per kilogram of dry air. So this kilogram of water gets cancelled and you will have the unit for the second term also, kilojoule per kilogram of dry air. So enthalpy of air in where the unit is kilojoule per kilogram of dry air is equal to HDA, contribution from dry air, plus W into HW, right? Where W, capital W, is the humidity ratio multiplied by the enthalpy, total enthalpy of water, right? Now, as I told you, water is in vapor form, or you can say superheated vapor form in the air around us. Okay. So the let's say again, as I was telling, that it is 30 degrees Celsius temperature. So what is assumed is that water has evaporated at 0 degrees Celsius temperature from liquid to vapor. So that latent heat of vaporization is 2501. And then it has become superheated from that point to the given temperature. So from 0 to 30 degrees Celsius temperature. And what is the CP of water? Water vapor, not the liquid water. Average between 0 and 30, or average between 0 and 50 may be taken, right? And that multiplied by 30, that will give you the sensible part of the enthalpy carried by water. And that's how you will calculate or use the formula for enthalpy, right? So this is HDA is nothing but CPDA, CP of air into temperature of air, and this part HW is nothing but 2501 plus Cp of water vapor multiplied by the temperature in degrees Celsius, right? So when you say 30, it is 30 minus 0, so it is 30. So that's how you will be finding the enthalpy of total enthalpy content of the air, which is a very important property in psychrometrics. So let me show you where enthalpy is on the psychrometric chart. You can see this enthalpy scale here. Enthalpy scale here, and you can see, read this 20 and 100 here. So it's a slant scale. Numbers are written 30, 40. In between there are 5 lines, long lines, and then dashes. So each dash represents 1. So 31, 32, 33, 34, and so on. What you see is that the enthalpy line, let's say 50, it goes inside the chart. And let's say this 60, that goes inside the chart. But if you talk about, let's say 58, then it is drawn only up to this point, up to the saturation line. It is not drawn inside. Otherwise, this will become very clumsy, right? So this line is drawn only up to saturation line. So if you want to find out enthalpy at point 1, what you need to do is, let's say you are using the chart for that purpose. From 1, what you should do is you find the closest line, which seems to be 70. Okay, closest enthalpy line, which seems to be 70, but 1 seems to be slightly higher than that. What you should do is you should use a roller scale, put your roller scale parallel to 70, roll it up to your point 1, and draw a line from that and take it up to the enthalpy scale. Right, so what you may find is it is somewhere near 71. Again, you can't be very accurate with the chart, so you have to be satisfied with plus or minus 0.5 here or there. Okay, so the enthalpy could be somewhere around 71 kilojoule per kilogram of dry air. That's the unit of enthalpy. Right, so this is the enthalpy scale, and how you find the enthalpy at the given point with the help of psychrometric chart. Later on, I'll be explaining you the use of the formula, though I have been explaining them to some extent, like I talked about the formula for enthalpy, right? It is sum of the enthalpy for dry air and enthalpy for water vapor. For water vapor, the enthalpy is equal to 2501 plus Cp of water, average Cp of water multiplied by temperature from 0 degrees Celsius to the given temperature. Right, so that's nothing but temperature in degree Celsius. Right, so that is what you get with the formula. It should be more accurate than what you get it from the chart, right? But then you should also know the use of chart, and charts are good for visualization of the process, as well as in case quick calculation is required, you can do it with the help of chart, right? So the enthalpy at point 1, how do I get the enthalpy? In case you have to solve an example, you should be drawing this type of line, right? This may not be a perfect line, but nearly perfect. And you can see that it's almost 71. It intersects 71, right? So that's the enthalpy at point 1. Right? So as you can see, you can find out all other properties once the state is defined. Right? So this was about the enthalpy. And if you have noticed, when I explained you the experiment on air conditioning, I had used the word reduction of enthalpy of air rather than just talking about reduction in temperature or reduction in moisture content, right? So when you say enthalpy, you are taking care of both the things, right? It may be both of them, it may be one of them, right? So when you talk about cooling and dehumidification, both the things are decreasing, temperature as well as moisture content, and that is reflected in the total is reflected in terms of enthalpy. Okay. Now we talked about the dry bulb temperature, but I mentioned the word wet bulb temperature, but I did not explain what exactly is wet bulb temperature. So I'm here giving you the definition of thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. You may write T suffix WB, but generally you will see T star as the nomenclature for thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. So it is the temperature at which water, by evaporating into moist air at dry bulb temperature T or TDB and humidity ratio W, can bring air to saturation adiabatically at the same temperature T star while total pressure P is constant. Right. So this is the definition of the wet bulb temperature. Again, it may not be very easy to understand without relating it to a certain phenomena. So I am explaining it to you with the help of this figure. So you can see that there is I'm talking about a long duct, very long duct, and on right hand side, the moist air is entering, and let's say its temperature is T, the dry bulb temperature, and W, it looks like omega, but it should be W, and so the humidity ratio is, let's say, W. Now what you do is, there is, let's say, water in this duct filled up at the bottom, let's say, but it's a very, very long duct, so there is a perfect exposure of air to this water. You can understand that this air which is entering from this right hand side, if it is not saturated, then there will be evaporation of water, and the moisture content in this air will go on increasing as it travels through this duct. And finally, if the duct is long enough, theoretically there is no limit, so you can go on extending it. Finally, when it comes out, it is saturated. So what will change in this? The thing that will change is the temperature will also change, and the moisture content will also change, right? So obviously temperature, as you know from your practical experience, that the temperature should go down. This is also called evaporative cooling, right? The breeze that comes out from sea or the breeze that comes out from a lake, you feel it cool. Then the reason for that is that there is evaporation of water into it, and that reduces the temperature of air. So the temperature will reduce and it will reach certain temperature. Now this duct that you are using should be perfectly insulated. It means that there is no heat transfer in either direction. Neither the heat is coming into it, neither the heat is going out. So that is adiabatic. So this process is called adiabatic saturation. You are saturating the air, by water, but you are not allowing any heat transfer to occur from the boundary of the system. So it is adiabatic saturation. It's an open system where air is entering at a particular state and it's going out. Now the temperature that you will achieve is actually function of this temperature and humidity W, and it's a property. So for a particular combination, this also will get fixed. But in this case, this water should also be available at the same temperature, TWB. Now here there is a mistake here actually. This T star and TWB is one and the same thing. So either you use TWB or use T star. The water as well as this are at the same temperature. If that is the case, then air will come out at this temperature, which is a property of the system, and it is called thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. So this is the strict definition of thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. In practice, with a psychrometer, what we measure is not the perfect wet bulb temperature. I will introduce psychrometer to you. Would be possible in the next lecture probably. And so certain theoretical things are discussed here. For any state of moisture, a temperature T star exists at which liquid or solid water evaporates into air to bring it to saturation at exactly this temperature and total pressure. So this process is adiabatic saturation. Saturated air is expelled at a temperature equal to that of injected water. In this constant temperature process, humidity ratio increases from initial value W to Ws at a given wet bulb temperature. So that's why it's written Ws star, corresponding to saturation temperature at T star. T star is thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. Enthalpy increases obviously because you are adding moisture. Value H to Hs star, corresponding to saturation temperature at temperature T star. Mass of water added to unit mass of dry air is Ws star minus W. You can understand this, which adds energy to moist air of amount Ws star minus W into enthalpy of the water being added, Hw star, where Hw star denotes specific enthalpy in kilojoule per kilogram of water of added at temperature T star. And you will come to know that this is a very small thing because you're talking about a liquid enthalpy of water. Therefore, if the process is strictly adiabatic, conservation of enthalpy at constant total pressure requires that H plus Ws star minus W into Hw star is equal to Hs star. Hs star is the enthalpy at the outlet of this duct, and H is the enthalpy at the inlet of the duct. And there is a change. But actually what you find is this Ws minus W. Okay, one thing is that number, if you write it in kilogram of water, it will be a small number. That is one part. And again, this is liquid enthalpy. So you'll find that enthalpy change is not very high. Right. So this is some discussion related to the thermodynamic wet bulb temperature and how you can achieve that temperature. Okay, we'll talk about some more things. Particularly, I'll introduce you the psychrometer and how the wet bulb temperature is measured, and how it is bit different from the strict definition of the thermodynamic wet bulb temperature. And I'll also show you those things on the psychrometric chart in the next lecture.